Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's Brownie from the Young Days. Today we're going over the Moonlight cards coming out in Shining Victories. Shining Victories, in case you don't know, comes out in May into the TCG and comes out in January into the OCG. And so this archetype has a lot of support, and I actually think it's a pretty interesting archetype that has a lot of it's kind of like has like a new playstyle compared to other fusion decks that we've seen. I'm gonna kind of go over it. In case you were wondering the little context. It's used by Serena. It's this one girl in the ARC-V TV show. She is the main female protagonist, Yuzu. She is her lookalike from the fusion dimension. So yeah, so this is gonna be a fusion deck. The archetype's actually pretty solid overall. I think it has all the pieces it needs to succeed. So we're gonna go over all the cards from that were released today. That were leaked today, and also we're going to go back over the cards from V-Jump and kind of get an idea about how this whole archetype works. So without further ado, let's hit it. So first we got the Moonlight Purple Butterfly. He's a Dark Beast Warrior effect. They're all Beast Warriors. All the dark ones are regular monsters. All the Pendulums are light monsters, but they're all Beast Warriors. Level 3, 1000, 1000, they're all different levels. In fact, they have like a Pendulum that's level 6, which is pretty crazy. You'll use the second effect of Moonlight Purple Butterfly once per turn. You can send this card. You can send to the graveyard this card face up from your side of the field or from your hand, then target one Moonlight monster in your graveyard. That monster gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one Moonlight monster from your hand. In case you notice, you can use both these effects in sequence. You can discard it from your hand to the graveyard to power up one of your fusion monsters, and then because they're pretty important during the battle phase. And then you can immediately after banish it from the graveyard to summon one of your higher level Pendulum ones if you have to, or you can just summon like another Moonlight card, which actually it's gonna be pretty solid if you can't Pendulum summon your other Moonlight cards. And yeah, this deck has Pendulum cards too, guys. Every deck gets Pendulums. So it's a pretty good card. We'll see its role more as you go along in the other ones. Okay, and now we got Moonlight White Rabbit. It's a Dark Beast Warrior, just like the other regular monsters. Level 2, 800, 800. When this card is normal summon, you can target one Moonlight monster in your graveyard, except Moonlight White Rabbit. Special summon that monster in face-up defense position. Once per turn, you can target a number of spell and trap cards your opponent controls up to the number of other Moonlight monsters you control and return them to the hand. That's the first effect is probably the most key. Because that's going to really help your fusion plays, being able to just kind of summon a Moonlight monster from your graveyard. I don't believe the fusion monsters. I think all the fusion monsters are exempt from this because I think all of them say must be fusion summoned. It can't be summoned by other ways. But this is gonna be pretty big when you're trying to do a fusion play because it lets you turn one card into two cards. That's gonna help mitigate the cost for fusion summoning because you don't lose any raw advantage. So you start like if you have 5 cards in your hand and you those are the cards like you have that constitute towards your advantage. If you summon White Rabbit and summon a guy from the graveyard, you technically now have 6 cards. That way, you can spend less of the raw advantage you started out with that was in your hand in order to fusion summon, so you don't go neg as hard, and your fusion plays aren't as investive. That's pretty big. That's kind of the support that the Fluffle deck kind of needed, that they never really got. So it's pretty good that this deck is getting that. The second effect is kind of niche. I'm not really too crazy about it. Yeah, like it's kind of free though. That's kind of the thing about it. Like it doesn't do that much, but it's just kind of free because you just kind of like, oh, I'll activate this right quick, and then now if you just open my Panther Dancer or my Cat Dancer, and now I'll move into my battle phase, and you attack all your monsters. That's pretty big. We got Moonlight Black Sheep. It's a Dark Beast Warrior effect, level 2, 100 and 600. You can discard this card and activate one of the following effects. You can either add a Moonlight monster from your graveyard to your hand, except Moonlight Black Sheep, or add Polymerization from your deck to the hand. And this indicates that this deck doesn't have any themed fusion spell cards that this deck has. One of the Pendulums is able to fusion summon while it's in the Pendulum skill, but this deck is going to have to rely on Polymerization, kind of like how the Fluffle deck had to rely on Polymerization. They ended up getting some themed fusion spell cards down the line, but it means that initially this deck probably isn't going to have any like batshit crazy fusion spell cards, kind of like Shut-All Fusion or L Shut-All Fusion, where you can either fusion summon from using materials on the deck, or you can do a quick fusion summon during the battle phase in order to make your OTKs a lot better. So it's kind of rough that this deck has to rely on Polymerization. It's kind of rough because that means it's not going to have like any broken generic built-in fusion spell, but I guess it's also good because now you can abuse some of the good polymerization support that's out there. You could technically run the Elemental Blaze Man to search your polymerizations, or you also use King of the Swamp. King of the Swamp. He lets you search polymerization, and he can be used for fusion material for a special for a fusion summon. And that's okay. It's just that some of the fusions won't let you do that. Some of the bigger ones. Okay. Now we're moving to the pendulum. So we have Moonlight Wolf. It's a light beast warrior pendulum effect. Pendulum scale of 1 to level 6, 2000, 1800. That's pretty weak for a level 6, but its effect's actually pretty decent. Pendulum effects, unfortunately, you cannot pendulum from monsters except Moonlight monsters. This effect cannot be negated. This is, I like how, I like how some people like Patrick Hoban, they took clauses like this, especially like the Klee effect where like you couldn't spell summon cards except Klees. This clause where you can't pendulum summon cards except Moonlights is like the, screw your deck idea, dude. Like any cool idea you had, nah, you're gonna stick to the Moonlight cards, which kind of sucks. I think that really is gonna close this deck a lot. It's gonna unnecessarily close this deck off to some pretty cool interactions you could do with other archetypes, but oh well. The other pendulum effect. Once per turn, you can fuse summon one Moonlight fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters you control or having your graveyard as fusion materials. That's actually really big because now you can, after you do a polymerization play, you can banish cards from your graveyard to summon another Moonlight monster from your extra deck, giving you means you don't have to use polymerization. But this card is pretty big overall. You can't search with Tenki, unfortunately, which is what probably this deck is going to max out on because it can search pretty much everything else. It lets you do a double fusion play, which is kind of big, and it doesn't really cost anything. And you can banish cards from the graveyard, so that's kind of free. That's really solid. It's just that it must be for Moonlight, which is fine. But the first pendulum effect is it's just kind of annoying. I really hate how they do that, but oh well. Monster effect. If a Moonlight monster you control battles a defensive position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponents. That is fine. That's gonna be pretty big with the fusion monsters. That's not really gonna help with all your low monsters. They all low attack. Even this guy's low attack, so it's not really that fantastic. All right, the other pendulum. Moonlight Tiger, the light beast warrior pendulum effect monster. It's a pendulum scale of 5, level 3, 1200, 800. Its pendulum effect. Once per turn, you can target one Moonlight monster in your graveyard to spell summon it, but its effects are negated. It cannot attack and is also destroyed during the end phase. Its monster effect, you can only use this effect of Moonlight Tiger once per turn. This card is on the field, is destroyed by battle card effect. You can target one Moonlight monster in your graveyard, spell summon that monster. Okay, so this card's pretty big for 2 reasons. One, it's a level 3, which is good. So it means you can search out a Tenki. But the fact that you can kind of summon a Moonlight monster from your graveyard for free is going to help mitigate the cost for your fusion summoning. That's pretty big. You know how that was one of the big inherent flaws with fusion summoning back in the day is that like your fusion plays were really invested because you had to use 3 cards to make 1 card. So like you had 5 cards in, you'd use 3 cards to make 1 card. And if that card died, you went -2 technically, and that's really tough to deal with. What this card, the Tiger, and then the other guy that spell summons the White Rabbit, yeah. These guys are actually pretty important because they're going to help mitigate the cost for your fusion plays. And this card in particular is kind of better than White Rabbit because it's just kind of free. Like it's putting your pendulum scale as the only one for the graveyard. That's just, I mean, you don't really have to do anything for it. Yeah, it can't do anything, but it's solely devoted for facilitating fusion plays. But luckily, it doesn't have any restrictions in terms of what you can summon for this turn. You can synchro or Xyz with the monster you summon, which is pretty big. And then the other effect is pretty solid actually because it's just like a Luster Pendulum. Sorry, it's just like liberating Ariadne and Formage Plushfire, who by the way just got banned in the OCG. And if this card is destroyed on the Pendulum scale, it will trigger, which is it's just pretty dumb. And the fact that you can summon a Moonlight monster in graveyard is also pretty dumb. They have the other one that can summon from the deck, the level 4. That's really good. And this card summons from the grave. You can summon the one that summons You can summon the one that summons from the deck. If he's in the grave, you can summon him with this card when this guy is destroying the pendulum scale, which is kind of nutty. But unfortunately, you can't have like a little loop. This card will be when it's destroyed, it's sent to the extra deck because it's a pendulum monster. You can't really abuse it that hard, but it's still pretty solid. Next, the Trap. This trap's actually pretty nice. Moonlight Reincarnation Dance. It's a normal trap. You can only activate 1 Moonlight Reincarnation Dance per turn, and it only has 1 effect. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, add up to 2 Moonlight monsters from your deck to your hand. That's really good. Okay, so so it searches the entire deck. It searches only monsters, but it searches like all the cards you're really gonna need. And there are a lot of Moonlight monsters. It adds 2 cards, so it's a +1. But there are 2 inherent problems with this card. One, it's a trap, so it's slow, and it must be activated at a specific time. You can't just activate it whenever, kind of like Glyphny or the Fetters of Fenrir. That's a Nordic trap card that lets you just search a Nordic monster. I can't remember if it's a card or monster. You can just search a Nordic monster. it's a trap, so it's kind of slow, but this card's even slower because it must activate at a specific time. But it's a +1, so that's pretty solid. They're definitely gonna play it, but I have no idea if they're gonna max out on it because it's kind of, I mean, the fact that it's a trap and it triggers at certain times is kind of annoying. Okay, so these are just the guys. So these are just the guys that were leaked today. There's also Moonlight Panther Dancer, which is a kind of cool card for the anime, and then they're printing as well, also in Shining Victories. He's a fusion monster, but in order to get an idea of what he does, we need to go over one of his materials. His materials are Moonlight Cat Dancer and one Moonlight Monster. So before we have an idea of how good this card is, we have to talk about Moonlight Cat Dancer. Moonlight Cat Dancer was leaked a few days ago, I believe. I actually, this card actually kind of slipped. I forgot about this card. I had to go. Someone had to remind me that this card actually existed. I thought Cat Dancer was like an actual it was like an actual monster that was in your main deck. It was like a regular monster, but I forgot it was a fusion monster. So Moonlight Cat Dancer, it's a level 7, 2400, 2000 Beast Warrior fusion, dark, just like all the other fusion monsters. Its materials are 2 Moonlight monsters, and its effect is cannot be destroyed by battle. Once per turn during your main phase 1, you contribute one other Moonlight monster. Each monster your opponent controls cannot be destroyed by battle once per turn. Also, this card can attack each monster your opponent controls twice each. The changes last during until the end of this turn. If this card declares an attack, inflict 100 damage to your opponent. Last effect is kind of niche, but actually the effect where it can't be destroyed by battle is kind of helpful. I mean, it kind of makes a better boss monster, but it's not really the main boss monster because what this deck does it's actually really I actually really like how this deck is designed. Each fusion monster builds on top of the other. So Cat Dancer requires two Moonlights, and then Panther Dancer requires Cat Dancer and another Moonlight, and then Leo Dancer, which is the highest, he's a level 10. He requires Panther Dancer and another Moonlight. So like you kind of slowly move up, and they definitely get better as they go along. And they all have this similar effect where they can attack twice, but your opponent's monsters can't be destroyed by that battle. That's going to help a lot, especially when you use cards like the first one we went over, the Purple Butterfly. You can buff up your Cat Dancer and attack twice, so you can inflict more damage. And on the last attack, since it cannot be destroyed by battle only once, on the second attack that monster will die. So it's really just like this archetype is really funny. It's just like, stop hitting yourself. Like you hit it once and it doesn't die. Like, nah, I'm going back in. You hit it again and then it dies. So it should be really funny in that regard. So let's go over Panther Dancer now. So Panther Dancer is a level 8 Beast Warrior fusion type effect monster, just like Cat Dancer. 2800 attack, 2500 defense. That's a lot. That's pretty big for a level 8. Its materials are again 1 Moonlight Cat Dancer and a Moonlight Monster. Cannot be special summoned from the extra except by fusion summoning it by using the above cards as fusion materials. This card cannot be destroyed by battle, or this card cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. It can be destroyed by battle. Once per turn during your main phase 1, you can activate this effect. Each monster your opponent controls cannot be destroyed by battle once. Also, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls twice each during this turn. If this card destroys opponent's monster by battle, it gains 200 attack until the end of the battle phase. So it's just like Cat Dancer, how it can attack each of the guys twice, but it doesn't have to tribute anyone. Unlike Cat Dancer. Cat Dancer, you can summon from the graveyard actually with these two guys. I just realized you can summon it with Tiger from the graveyard, and you can summon it with White Rabbit. That's pretty big, but you can't summon Panther Dancer, which is kind of annoying unless you're special summoned by fusion summon. But this card's a really good boss monster, so it can't be destroyed by battle. It can't be destroyed by card effects. It can be destroyed by battle, unfortunately, but it's most likely going to be outed by extra deck monsters, kind of like Castell. I don't know, who knows, you could steal with the Big Eye, lots of, their Ignition Prominence, lots of, rank 4s, or, lots of rank 4s of the 4-range Pendulum that can throw out, that can easily deal with this card. This card is a fantastic, boss monster because it can't draw by card effects, and its effect is it's pretty powerful because you can buff it up with some of your other Moonlight cards to really just make it big and kind of kill your opponent that way by just attacking your opponent monsters over and over. It's like, stop hitting yourself. This card's really cool. And then so there's also in VJump they revealed Moonlight Blue Cat and Moonlight Leo Dancer, who's the apex of the Moonlight fusions. So first, Moonlight Blue Cat, Dark Beast Warrior, level 4, 1600, 1200. Can only use the first effect of Moonlight Blue Cat once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can target one Moonlight monster you control, except Moonlight Black Cat. Its attack becomes double its original attack until the end of the turn. Its second effect. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Moonlight monster from your deck. This card is fantastic. This card is absolutely fantastic. It's exactly what the deck needs. It is definitely, without a doubt, a mandatory 3 of in this deck. Because not only can it float into it one of your other Moonlight cards, you can also summon the level 6, the high level Pendulum. You can summon him. So he's kind of easier to summon. But you can also summon the guy who revives from the graveyard. So you go blue cats into Tiger, and Tiger is going to be able to revive Blue Cat when he dies, and Blue Cat's gonna be summoning another guy, because guess what? The second effect of Moonlight Black Cat is not once per turn. That is really cool. That card's definitely a mandatory 3 of, and it's a level 4 with a okay amount of attack. But level 4, it's pretty solid. That's definitely gonna mandatory 3 of. And then Moonlight Leo Dancer is the final card we're going over today. Moonlight Leo Dancer, it's a level 10, 3,500 attack, 3,000 defense. It requires Moonlight Panther Dancer, who was the second guy up, the second fusion up. He requires Moonlight Panther Dancer and 2 Moonlight monsters, so not just one like Panther Dancer. Must be fusion summoned with above materials. Cannot be special summoned by other ways. Cannot be destroyed or cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. This card can make a second attack during each of the battle phase. Once per turn, at the end of the damage step, when this card attacked a monster, you can destroy all special monsters your opponent controls. This card is really, really solid. It actually cannot attack as many times as Panther Dancer or the Moonlight Cat or the Cat Dancer. All their names sound the same, actually. Because the card attacks only 2 times during each battle phase, when hypothetically you can attack a lot, because with Panther Dancer, because he can attack every monster twice. Is that correct? Yeah, all monster opponent controls twice during each during this turn. This card is probably the strongest. It's obviously the strongest of them, but this is just kind of impractical because Panther Dancer is already kind of hard. This is Panther Dancer right here. I don't really like the card art. It's kind of weird. But he's definitely the strongest out of all these. But it's just kind of impractical because Panther Dancer is already pretty good, but this card requires Panther Dancer, who's already hard to summon, and then 2 other Moonlight monsters. But like once this card's summoned, it's like impossible to kill. It can't be targeted, so it's freaking Dark Destroyer. And it can't be destroyed by opponent's card effects. You can still shuffle it with Ignition Prominence, which is pretty annoying. That's pretty much like this card's only out though. If Ignition Prominence, but that's, I mean, I say only out, but like every Pendulum deck can make Ignition Prominence. It can attack twice during splash, which is fine, and the last effect is decent. It can help make it so that the second attack it does, it's a direct attack, which is pretty solid overall. So looking over this deck, I really like this deck. I think it's really, really cool. Not only is it kind of cool to have like a decent anime deck, but like this deck is relatively well put together. It has like some decent searching through the Reincarnation Dance. A lot of the monster, like the little henchmen monsters, they all play a role. Actually, there was one that I thought was kind of. No, they're all pretty decent, but definitely that Blue Cat was definitely the best of all of them. I like how all the fusion monsters, they slowly get better as you move up in the levels. That's kind of cool. Unfortunately, they don't like float into the other ones. I don't like this card's card art. I looked through some of these cards' card art. Like this is Purple Butterfly. Some of their card art is just kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of strange. It's just too. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's not that great. But this archetype is actually really well put together, and I think actually might have some potential. We just need to figure out how to make this deck kind of function, because even though it's not like as batshit crazy as some other archetypes we've seen over the past year, this deck has everything it needs to function. So I think this deck is raring to go, and I hope we see some spell cards that this deck can abuse. If we get some good themed fusion support, fusion spell support, this deck could definitely be a legitimate contender. So let me know what you guys think of the Moonlight archetype. I think this archetype is really, really awesome. I'm definitely going to be playing this deck once the cards are released on Dev Pro or Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Salvation, so stay tuned for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below of all of these cards, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you all next time.